Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing like a little bit of a tabletop video on pistol red dot considerations for somebody who's looking to get into that. Okay, this was a video that was kind of requested from me by somebody I know, and I'm more than happy to oblige. So I'm gonna try to share what I know and what I've experienced and what I've learned through the buying process and the use of red dots on pistols. So stay tuned and check that out. All right, so first of all, I want to say thank you for all the support everybody's been giving me on the channel so far. It really does help. It helps with the algorithm, all the YouTube stuff, the subscriptions, the thumbs up. So if you guys don't mind, that really does help beat out all the stuff that goes against anybody who does anything with guns on YouTube. So please keep that up, and thank you very much. So like I said, I want to talk about red dots on pistols. So this is maybe not for somebody who already knows what they want and already are in the, knee deep into the red dots on pistol game, but maybe for somebody who's looking at or considering at getting set up with something like this red dot on a pistol. It's nothing too crazy anymore. It's 2022. It's kind of really caught on in the last 5 years, 6, 7, 8 years. And before that, it was starting. It was kind of newer to the community at that time. But at this point, if you go to any type of class or any type of community event, you can expect to see the majority of shooters, they're going to have some type of red dot optic on the pistol that they're using, okay? And I've noticed not always on their carry pistol, but more so on their like their full-size carry type pistol, but most of the time on their carry pistol too. So if you're shooting red dots, chances are you're shooting red dots across the board, okay? And it's become very common at this point. And like I said, the red dot shooters definitely outweigh the iron sight shooters. Not saying one's better than the other. It's just what it is. All right, so what I'm using on my guns and what I've been using for the majority of the time is the Trijicon RMR. It's, in my opinion, the gold standard for what you look for in a red dot on a pistol, okay? I like having the manual adjusting brightness settings. What is it, the 3.25 MOA dot, not the big one, not the 6, not the small one, the 1. This is, as far as I know, the gold standard, okay? You've got 2 different generations, 1 and 2. If you want to get into what the difference on that is, you can go down to some internet rabbit hole, but for me, they work great and they work pretty much flawlessly, okay? I also have some good experience with the Delta Point. This is also a very good optic. Functionally, in my opinion, they're the same thing because it's an open emitter and they work pretty much the same. You can grab one and the other, and it's, if you're a halfway decent shooter, it's going to work the same for you. So it's kind of like a preference of what you like. I think there is a little bit of a price difference, not much. The prices on things now are so wild, I don't even want to quote prices. One's going to have a bigger window, one's going to have a smaller window, whatever. It's choose what you like, try to get your hands on some stuff and play with it before you actually make a purchase. But very tried and true options right there. So taking that in consideration, things have moved forward a little bit. Like I said, red dots have been around for a little while now, and things are changing. That's how the industry works. So you've got the closed emitter types. And what I mean by that is the Aimpoint Acro. It's completely closed system. It doesn't project from here onto a lens. It's looks like a little mailbox. That's also what people like to call it. They're already on their second iteration of their product because the first one, people didn't like the fact that the battery died so quick and things like that. And that's just the way industry works, right? They make improvements, they put out a new product, and that's how things get really, really refined and better for the end user. So that's a good thing for us shooters, okay? So also to keep in mind, anything that's made by a quality company is going to get ripped off by some Chinese companies. So if you're looking for the HoloSun stuff to save a few bucks, you can pretty much find anything that's good made by Holosun for arguably quite a bit cheaper, and it's going to function, or at least it'll work the same. I don't know about quality or anything like that. I don't have too much experience with the Holosun stuff, their whole line, and I know they make anything that anybody else makes and they just kind of copy it. So if you want to go down that way, that's also an option if you want to save money. Okay, so let's talk about mounting options for your gun. It's something else to consider when you're looking at a purchase for your red dots. Okay, so a 19X, it comes with no mounting options, okay? So this is something you're gonna have to send off, get milled out to be able to mount a red dot on there. And you're gonna have to tell them what kind of red dot you're gonna wanna mount on there. The most common footprint, I believe, is the Trijicon. It's been around for arguably the longest, so most manufacturers do it because of that, okay? Or you can go with an aftermarket slide if you build a Glock or whatever, or a pistol. And you can also get mounting plates that go on. So it's like a little interface where if you want to put a Trijicon footprinted slide together with a Leupold Delta Point Pro, you can, but you're going to have a little bit of a little shim or a little interface in there, and it'll raise it up obviously because you're putting something under there. So things to consider is what optic you're going to put on what pistol and what it's already cut for, if it's cut for something at all. Okay, now at this point in the game, 2022, you shouldn't be buying a pistol, in my opinion, that doesn't come cut. So this slide is off of the 320 right when it first came out, which I don't even know, was it maybe 6 years ago? So of course back then they didn't do cuts. Now every gun manufacturer, I believe, any reasonable one, is releasing their guns already cut, ready to receive optics. And what I'm saying here is what drove my decision to get the Leupold Delta Point Pro. The SIG is cut for the Delta Point Pro. I didn't want to do any shim, make it work stuff, so I went and got the Delta Point Pro, and that's what I put on here. So it was kind of the gun decided for me what I was going to do. Okay, let's talk about budget. Budget is a big thing when it drives firearm decisions for people. So like I said, the Holosun stuff, it is, I've used it. I don't own one, but I've used the stuff quite a bit. They like to put them on demo guns at range days and things like that. But in my opinion, they're just direct copies of the RMRs, the Delta Point Pros, the Aim Points, anything out there by a reputable company. Holosun is basically a ripoff of that for whatever that's worth to you. So if you want to save money, that's the way to go. But now I'm starting to see prices from the Holosun stuff approaching the $400 mark. Now, at that point, you're not saving all that much to go with not so reputable company. And what I mean by that is, like, if you've got a problem with your stuff, how are you going to get it serviced or anything like that? I know Aimpoint's fantastic with that. Same with Trijicon and Leupold. I've sent some optics off to SIG to get redone. Obviously, you've got Vortex. These companies are very good with their stuff. I don't know anything about how Holosun works. I imagine it's halfway decent, but it's something to consider. And like I said, if it's approaching the reputable range as far as price goes, I would save a little bit and just go ahead and get the tried and true one and probably skip the Holosun option altogether. But will it work? Absolutely. And that's what your budget calls for. Go ahead and use it and buy it. And I think the important thing is to spend time with it to make sure it's going to work for whatever purpose you're buying it for. Okay, so uses. Let's talk about uses. If you're concealed carrying the red dot, be aware that the red dot here, be aware that if you got like linty clothes and things like that, it can get in the emitter and all that stuff. And you might want to consider having backup sights. This is kind of like a range gun. I would rather not have backup sights because this is not something I carry in a concealed capacity. So that's my use. That's why I don't have backup sights on this particular one. Then you get into the SIG stuff. Now you're getting away from even having the option of backup sights unless you start doing some crazy stuff. You can slide it in on the back of the red dot right there, but then the front, it's a thing. So however you're going to use it, think it through, and make sure it's going to work for you. I'm okay with the quality of red dots that I have, not having backup sights altogether, but that's my preference. Some people would say that's crazy heresy stuff. How are you not going to have backup red dot sights? Well, I use my equipment and I trust it, and I'm familiar with it. So that's how I've made my decision. If you're using it in a duty capacity outside on a bigger holster, you've got some more options. You don't need to conceal it. If you're just using it for just range fun, then you can do kind of whatever you want. You have less limitations in that way of your uses. So your use should also be considered into your purchase when you're going for the red dots. Okay, so kind of to wrap it up, we covered like what the options are, what the uses might be, and your budget. That's all personal stuff. So these are just kind of some of the things that you should run through your head real quick when you've already made the decision, like, hey, I want to step into the red dot stuff. From that, once you've made your red dot purchase, you need to spend some time getting familiar with your new gun. You might as well consider it a new gun because it's going to shoot quite a bit different than what you're used to. Okay? Not a whole lot different. If you've got decent fundamentals and you know how to drive a pistol out, it's not going to be such a wild thing for you. And the change and getting used to it, it's not going to take too long. It's really not. It'll be weird at first, but it's nothing that you can't get used to. It really is. So I would definitely not discourage going from iron sights to red dot just because it takes a little bit of training to get back to a level of comfort for your shooting. And most definitely, with that being said, I definitely think the good of having a red dot on your pistol outweigh any negatives as far as having to change batteries or having to go out and do zeros like once 6 months or something like that to check your zero, make sure everything's good to go. You'll be very pleased with the red dot. You'll see some drastic improvements on your shooting from longer distances with the pistol. You'll see drastic improvements, I believe, on your follow-up shots. Your 2, 3, 4 to whatever 10 shots after your first will be a lot faster in my opinion. There's definitely some improvements. There's a few drawbacks, sure, but it's nothing that the good does not outweigh the bad. So, overall net gain. So I hope this helped out anybody who's looking at getting into red dots for your pistol for whatever uses you have. And thank you very much, and stay tuned for more great stuff coming up.